Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back, all students. Today we will study a new lesson, which is how to solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Just to recall some methods which you took before, I will ask you this question. How many methods you learned to solve quadratic equation? If you remember, we took these methods. The first method, by graphing, to graph the parabola and to find the point of intersection with the x-axis, if there is. And the second method, by factoring, whatever, by AC method or tic-tac-toe method or lazy AC method or slide and divide, whatever, anyway, but all of them are by factoring. And the third method, it's by completing the square, which is the last lesson which we took it, which is lesson 8. And now we will study a new method, and I think it's the best method to solve any quadratic equation. It's called the quadratic formula. Now, let us start with this. First of all, do you remember the standard form of the quadratic equation? The standard form of any quadratic equation is, and you took this before, I think, it is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The coefficient of x squared, which is a, and the coefficient of x, which is b, and the constant, which is c. And the other side, it is 0. This is the standard form for any quadratic equation. Now, at the beginning, if you want to solve by the quadratic formula, so you have to write your equation by this standard form. Okay, let us start with this example. Use the quadratic formula to solve the following equation. My equation is x squared minus 4x equals 5. Now, this equation, it's not written in the standard form. So, at the first, you have to write it in standard form. In standard form, it will be, I will transfer this 5 to the left side to make this side to be 0. So it will be x squared minus 4x, transfer this, it is positive, it will be negative 5 equals 0. Then tell what are the coefficients, which a and b and c. A how much is A? A is 1, which is the coefficient of x squared, and B equals -4, the coefficient of the x, and the constant, which is the number without a variable, which is the x, the C, it is -5. This is C. So C equal -5. This is the first step if you want to use the quadratic formula. Now, after finding this step, you can directly find the solutions, which is the x's. Now, how I will find these x's? I will write now the quadratic formula, which is, so we can now find the solution by the following formula, and you have to memorize this formula. This formula is this one: x equal long fraction, and in the numerator here it is -b plus or minus. These are the different two solutions, plus or minus, the square root of, there is an expression here under the square root, it is b squared minus 4ac, and all divided by 2 multiplied by a. This is our quadratic formula. It is a general formula for any quadratic equation. So you have to memorize this formula. You must memorize it. Okay. Now we will replace each of these coefficients by the numbers which are here. Now, by the way, this expression, which is b squared minus 4ac, we call it the discriminant of the quadratic formula. The discriminant because it discriminates these equations, or discriminates between the equations which have two different solutions, two different real solutions, and the equations with one real solution, and the equations with no real solutions. So because it discriminates between these different equations, we call it discriminant. Okay, let us start. Now I will complete here. So I will rewrite the formula. So x equal -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And if you remember, we found that a is 1, b is -4, c is -5. I will write it here all. A is 1, b is -4, and c is -5. Let us start. So I will start applying this formula. X equal -b, it will be -4. So it will be -4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so it's negative 4 squared. Don't forget to put it inside parentheses. This is b squared minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 1, multiplied by c, which is negative 5. Divided by 2 multiplied by a, so it's 2 times 1. Now simplify this expression. It will be like this way. So I'll get negative negative, it will be positive 4, no need to write the sign, plus or minus, no problem. If you put the plus up and the minus down, it's okay, no problem. Positive negative, okay. And the square root of negative 4 squared, it will be positive 16, and here this is one term, so you have to take care about the signs. This is negative and this is negative, this is positive, so negative multiplied by positive, it's negative, multiplied by negative, it's positive, so it is a plus. And 4 multiplied 1, it's 4, times 5, it's 20. Divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Now simplify this, what under the square root, x will be equal 4 plus or minus the square root of 20, 16 plus 20, it's 36, and we have a square root for the 36, which is 6. You can now write it again. So x will be 4 plus or minus the square root of 36, which is 6, divided by 2. So now we have two alternatives, two solutions. The first, you will take the same numbers, but first you will take the plus, and the second solution you will take the minus. So these are to differentiate between the two different solutions. So now either or. So I will take it like this way. Either x equal 4 plus or minus whatever you want, plus 6 out of 2, or x equal 4 minus 6 divided by 2. This part I can simplify it, so x will be 4 plus 6, it will be 10 out of 2, which is 5. This is the first solution, and here x will be 4 minus 6, it will be negative 2 divided by 2, which is negative 1. So we have two different real solutions, which are the 5 and the negative 1. So the solutions are the x equal 5 and x equal negative 1, or the zeros, whatever you can name them, the solution of the quadratic equation, or the zeros, or the x-intercepts, because if you draw the parabola which related to this equation, it will intersect the x-axis at these two numbers. So the solutions are x equal 5, and the second solution is x equal negative 1, and that's all. So this is the general or the quadratic formula for solving any quadratic equation. You can use this formula anytime for any quadratic equation. But most of the methods which we took before, you can't apply them for all quadratic equations. Especially the factoring, sometimes you can't factor most of the equations, the quadratic equations, and also at the same time by graphing, it's not easy to graph some quadratic equations, to graph the related graph which related to the given equation. So now I will try another one. Example. Solve using the quadratic formula. I will give you this equation. It will be 2x squared equal 3x plus 1. Now look at this equation. It is not written in the standard form, so I have to write it in the standard form. So I will transfer these two parts or these two terms to the left. It will be, I will start with this term, which is 2x squared minus, because it's positive here, minus 3x minus 1 equals 0. Now find the coefficients, which are a and b and c. A is 2, b is negative 3, c is negative 1. Okay, x equal, I will apply the formula now. X equal, and I told you you have to memorize this formula, negative b. I will write it now plus minus, it's the same, nothing will be different. Square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now replace these coefficients by the numbers. So x equal negative b, it will be positive 3 because b is negative 3, so negative multiplied by negative 3, it will be positive 3, plus or minus the square root of, you can directly find b squared, which is negative 3 squared, negative 3 multiplied by itself, it will be 9, minus 4 multiplied by a multiplied by c, so minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 2, here's a, multiplied by c, which is negative 1, divided by 2 times a, which is 2. What you can get now? So x will be equal 3 plus or minus the square root of. By the way, don't forget the order of operations now. Don't find 9 minus 4, it will be 5, then multiply by the 5 by 2, then by -1. It's wrong. By order of operations, you have to make the multiplication before. So you have to do this part before. So you will multiply these numbers, then you will add the 9. So it will be 9. I will leave it now. Now, minus 4 multiplied by 2 multiplied by -1, all of these are one term. So negative multiplied by negative, it will be positive. This is positive. So it will be plus 4 multiplied 2 multiplied by 1, it will be 8. Now you can add these two numbers to each other. So take care about the order of operation first. Divided by 2 times 2, it is 4. Now 9 plus 8, it will be, I will simplify it more, 3 plus or minus 9 plus 8, it will be 17, so the square root of 17. And look at this square root, there is no whole number, it has the square root of 17. So in this case, I will keep this square root as it is. I will not simplify it more. It's okay. I will keep it as it is, divided by 4. So now you can take the two alternatives, which is the first x is 3 plus the square root of 17 divided by 4, and leave it as it is. If you can simplify it more, but because of the square root of 17 we can simplify it, so leave it as it is. So the first solution, it will be x equal 3 plus the square root of 17 divided by 2. This is the first solution, and the second alternative for x is x equal 3 minus the square root of 17 divided by divided by 4 here, divided by 4, which is the denominator here. So these are our solutions. This is the first, either or, and it's finished. Now you can find this expression, which is b squared minus 4ac, which is the discriminant. If you remember, I told you about it, which is the discriminant. So before doing this formula, you can apply this discriminant to check if this equation has two different real solutions, or one different real, or one real solution, or there's no solution, no real solution. So in this case, what I will do, I will start with this discriminant, then I will decide how many solutions the equation has. Okay, let us do this one. Example. So the example, I can ask you to decide how many different solutions any quadratic equation has. If there are, sometimes there is no. So what we will do in this case, we will use the discriminant. Okay. how many solutions are there for each of these equations. How many? Only tell me how many different solutions. If there are, if there is no, we will check by the discriminant. So by finding the discriminant okay, 1. If you have this equation, x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. Now this equation is written in the standard form, so I will decide what is A. A is 1, B is also positive 1, C is positive 1. Now find the discriminant, which is B squared minus 4AC. You have to memorize this expression. It's called the discriminant. Equal directly B squared, which is 1 squared, minus 4 multiplied by A multiplied by C, so it's 4 multiplied by A, which is 1, multiplied by C, which is 1, and this will be 1 squared, it's the squared before the multiplication, which is 1. Now the multiplication, 4 times 1 times 1, it is 4, so minus, I will keep this. 4 times 1 times 1, it's 4. Now the subtraction, it is 1 minus 4, it is negative 3. This is the discriminant, which is B squared minus 4AC. What's the meaning that the discriminant is negative with negative sign? If you got the discriminant with negative sign, which is less than 0, that means your equation, this one, with no real solution. So there is no any real solution for this quadratic equation. So because the discriminant is negative. So this is the one of the cases of the discriminant. If you got the discriminant with minus or with negative sign, that means it's less than 0. So there is no real solution for this. That means there are no any solution for this quadratic equation. So I can now say there are no solutions or real solutions for this equation. Okay, this is the first example. The second one, let us take this one. 2. Remember that I'm searching for the how many solutions, different solutions for the equation. The second equation, it is 3x squared plus 2 equal negative 7x. Negative 7x. Now this quadratic equation is not written in the standard form, so you have to write it in the standard form at the beginning. So I will start with this part, 3x squared. Then the second part, which is this one, transfer it to be positive, plus 7x and this part I will keep it as it is, plus 2 equals 0 to the left, to the right side. Now it's written in standard form. A is 3, this is A, and this is B, and this is C. So now I can find the discriminant, which is B squared minus 4AC, and I will decide how many solutions we have for this equation. It depends on the number which I will get it here. So now B squared is 7 squared minus 4 multiplied by A, which is a 3, multiplied by C, which is 2. It's equal 7 squared. You have to apply the exponent first, then the multiplication, then the subtraction. 7 squared, it will be 49 minus 4 multiply 3 multiply 2, 4 times 3 is 12, multiplied by 2 it's 24. So it's equal 49 minus 24, it will be 25. This number, which is the discriminant, which is B squared minus 4AC, is positive number. It's greater than 0, and this is the second case. The first case, if the discriminant is negative, there are no any real solution. Now, because the discriminant is positive now, this equation, it has two, or this one, the same, it has two different real solutions because the discriminant is positive. So there are two different real solutions. If he asks you about what are these solutions, you can find the formula, which is the general formula, or the quadratic formula, which is x equal negative b plus minus the square root of the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac divided, and you can find these two real solutions. But here we are searching for how many solutions are there for this equation. So only just you have to decide how many solutions are there. Now another one, the third example, number 3. If you have this equation, which is 4x squared minus 8x equals -1. Okay, let us write it in the standard form. It will be, I will transfer this number to the left side. It will be 4x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0. Now A is 4, B is -8, and C is +1, which is 1. Now apply the discriminant formula, which is b squared minus 4ac equal b squared, it's -8, you can find it directly, squared minus 4 times Okay, that's complete. Minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 4, multiplied by 1. Now it will be negative 8 squared, it will be 64, minus 4 multiplied by 4, it is 16. Now it will be 48, which is greater than 0, and in this case, as the equation which was before, because the discriminant it is more than 0, it will be with two different real solutions. So it has two different real solutions. Okay, the last one, let's check this, number 4. If it is x squared minus two x plus 1, which equals 0. Now apply this, it will be a will be 1, b is negative 2, which is this, and c is positive 1, because this is written in the standard form. Now this discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac, b squared is negative 2 squared minus 4 multiplied by a, which is 1, multiplied by c, which is 1. It will be negative 2 squared, it will be 4, keep the minus, 4 times 1 times 1, it is 4, and the answer is 0. Now the discriminant in this case, which is b squared minus 4ac, is 0. And this is the third case. And the first case, if you remember, if the discriminant is negative, it will be there are no any real solution, and there is no real solution, sorry. And if the discriminant is positive, like these two examples, which is number 3 and number 2, if the discriminant is more than 0, which is positive, there are two different real solutions. And this is the third case, if the discriminant is 0, equals 0 exactly, and this means this equation, it has only one real solution. So it has one real solution. What is the real solution? I can find it by this quadratic formula, which is the minus b, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. You can get it also. But here we are searching for how many different solutions. So these are the different cases for the discriminant. So the discriminant, it has 3 cases. So the first case, if b squared minus 4ac is positive, so there are two different real solutions. If the discriminant, this is the second case, if b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, it has only one real solution. And by the way, in this case, you can get, because it's one real solution, it's really not one, it's two, but they are the same solutions. So they are equal. And in this case, if the discriminant is 0, you can get that this formula, it is a perfect square. This is a perfect square formula, by the way, because the discriminant is 0, so you can get it like this way. And the third case, if the discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac, is less than 0, in this case, you can check that there are no any real solution. There is no real solution. So there are no real solutions. And this is our lesson. You can try this quadratic formula for these examples. Okay. And by the way, you can try these examples by different ways. Okay. Solve. This is the homework. Solve the following equation by using three different methods. Which are they? Don't use the graph method, use the factoring method and the completing square method and the quadratic formula method, which is the using by the discriminant. So this is, and the equation is negative 14 plus x squared equals 5x. Try this one. Don't forget to write it first in the standard form. So good luck for everyone, and I hope from you to do it correctly. Thank you very much. Bye bye.